Okay.
Hey, so it's nice to see you, Bruce. How are you going?
All right. Yeah, it's like 10 o'clock in the morning here. I don't know what time it is there.
9 o'clock in the evening.
Oh, nice. That's a
Yeah,
nicer time of day. Just got back from the school run, so yeah, but I'm all right.
yeah. It's bloody warm here. Is it? What's it like over there? Is it cold still?
Cold. Yeah,
Yeah,
5 degrees. Typical English weather, sort of grey, a bit damp.
yeah. That's why I run away from it. That's why I'm here at 30 odd degrees on a sunny day.
Yeah.
Oh dear. So we're here to talk about obviously the Pineapple Thief, which is your
Yep.
your baby. I've followed them for a very long time. As you can probably tell, I'm a Marillion fan.
Oh yeah.
prog is in my
In
blood.
your blood. Yeah.
And I've sort of uh, found your stuff really, really intriguing and very modern, which I think is what, of course, you're aiming for, I'm sure.
Yeah.
The new singles that just came out, I was just listening to them over the last couple of days, which was Frost, which I really, really enjoyed.
Mm.
That's come off the new album that's coming out soon, I believe.
Yeah, February the 9th. So yeah, the Frost. I think we've released the Frost on a track called Every Trace of Us.
Hmm.
Um, and we got another single coming on this Thursday, February the 1st, which is it leads to this title track.
Oh,
And then
brilliant.
the album drops on February 9th. I'm kind of conscious that a lot of bands give away a lot of music before the album comes out. You know, some bands more than half the record is kind of released and then the album comes out. This it's kind of a modern thing. It didn't used to be that way, like in the 80s and
No,
70s.
I'm with
But
you on that
yeah,
completely because I just had that same issue. Did a whole program about it. Um, like I just bought the new Peter Gabriel album. Unbelievable, the new album. It's a brilliant album. But I had to stay away from all of the press releases because he released every song off the album.
yeah, yeah. Gavin, our drummer, he's a massive Peter Gabriel fan, and he said by the time the album came out, he was like, "Oh, I was so fed up," you
Yeah,
know, because it was practically a year
yeah, it was
almost
every
of
full moon
just dropping.
apparently. Yeah,
Oh, was
so,
it?
yeah,
Right, yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
I
I mean,
stayed away. I stayed away.
yeah, that was definitely an extreme example, but yeah, I think I like the idea of maybe having one single, two singles. I had to tell the label that actually because they wanted to put four singles out, and I said no, that's half the album. Let's at least keep it to three. So yeah,
I think you're
that's what
right.
we did.
I think, and that really is the because I mean this. I mean, you're a prog band through and through.
Yeah,
So I mean, I wouldn't really call. I mean, I don't think of prog bands as single bands.
no,
As releasing singles. You just don't think of them that way. But when they like you said, oh, your label wants four singles. I was like, oh, okay, I get it because they want more money, they want more exposure, they want more
yeah. They think
downloads.
every time a single comes out, they think they can push it, and and it's all social media now. You know, paying for social media ads and boosts, all this kind of
Yeah,
thing. So, yeah, it's not like the old days with MTV or
no, or
that
the
kind of stuff.
radio. Yeah, or the radio, or top 10 or top
Yeah,
whatever. I had this
yeah,
discussion. Yeah, we sound like we're old men, but I had this discussion about this the
yeah.
other day.
Well, we
It's
are.
like, remember
Yeah.
when music meant something?
Yes, I know.
When it was a social commentary or something, it wasn't just throwaway all the time. Like,
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
was produced by
It's
people. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think it's like anything is now is that you in the old days you had to earn your right to have the platform to put the music out there. Now, it's a bit like social media commentary. Anyone's got a platform. It's so easy to make music to up. If you the number of songs are uploaded to Spotify every day, it's just
Oh,
mind
crazy.
blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because you started in 1999, so
yeah.
right at the end of the 90s into the millennium. And that was sort of just on the wave of the internet, wasn't it? Sort of 97, 98, that internet explosion.
Really, right. I remember when the first album came out, there was a new website called mp3.com,
Yep.
and you could upload MP3s. And so I uploaded a couple of songs, and it was really only the nerds and the geeks that went on there. But that actually did get me some listeners. I remember people were emailing from Canada all over the world going, "Oh, I love this music." And so it really was the very, very beginning. But back then it still was physical product was still absolutely king. The CD
Yeah,
was
yeah. And now it's gone back
was
to
the way
vinyl,
that
thank
people
goodness.
consumed it.
Yep.
Yeah,
But so obviously the long career that you've had, and it's what, 16 studio albums?
yeah, I think so. I've lost track now.
I think it's
It's
16.
16 if you include the Give It Back one. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah,
Yeah. which is that's no mean feat for a musician like yourself. And let's be honest, prog now is not a dirty word. I mean, let's be honest, in 1999, it was probably a bit of a dirty word. It was a 4-letter word. It didn't mention the word prog.
Really hard. There was no exposure. We were on a really small little label called Cyclops. I mean, we were lucky to have that, but yeah, there was no press. There was a few underground fanzines, a few sort of webzines, early webzines that came on board that kind of promoted it. But yeah, it was really, really difficult. And we were there was in the 90s. There was the big scene. I mean, you had Marillion, but you had a lot of other sort of neo prog bands.
Yes,
Pendragon, Arena, and that kind of stuff. And we didn't sound like that. We were kind of doing more sort of. I guess this is because Marillion are a strange band because they were probably the kings of neo prog in the 80s, but then they evolved into this completely
AOR
different beast
sound. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and sort of much more melodic song based stuff. And that's generally what we wanted to be, or I wanted to be as a songwriter, was to have everything that I loved about 70s progressive rock, but bring what I loved about modern music, and especially hooks and sort of lyrics that people can connect with.
Yeah, so more accessible than the really sort of abstract 27 minutes, Genesis pieces. Yeah, exactly.
Like Yes and Genesis. I always think of my wife, who's she's certainly not a progressive. She loves the Pineapple Thief, but she doesn't like sort of progressive rock. So I kind of think, well, she would never, if I played her Close to the Edge, she would just go, what the hell is this? Turn it off.
I'll be going, please, more.
Yeah, exactly. But it's that kind of thing. But if I played her, say, Crime of the Century by Supertramp, she would get it.
Yeah. Yeah,
but they're both prog rock bands from the early 70s, well, both albums from the early 70s.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show how wide a genre.
That's what I love about bands like yourself, because they are in such a wide scope. It's not just like there's this image that it's all capes and dragons and 20-minute keyboard solos. Yes. It isn't the case, right?
No,
it's just like people like you who have extremely good, extreme musical talent. Breathing more life into it, modern sound into it, which I think is a fantastic thing. It's what I love about your work.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Carry on. Sorry. You carry on.
No. I was just thinking about how it did change. I remember in the early days there was sort of myself, there was Stephen Wilson, who was in a very similar position on a very small label called Delirium, doing sort of psychedelic stuff. And I remember we were sort of both in this sort of same sort of zone, trying to get this more melodic, modern sounding rock out there, but it was so difficult. And then obviously Stephen Wilson and Porcupine Tree just went on to get the success that they did, which is, really, they paid their dues. They definitely deserve it. And then that paved the way. I think that if you look at how the progressive rock scene has grown through the 2000s and the last sort of 20 years, it's incredible. I've kind of lived through the whole thing.
You have. You're one of the OGs. If I hate that term, but you're probably one of the OGs, as the young people might say.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about this the other day. If you listen to prog from the 70s, so that I always think prog is a very small window, right, of time. And you have Yes and Genesis and ELP, which is my favorite, and all that stuff. And they all hark back to what they were listening to, which mainly they were listening to a lot of classical music, a lot of folk music. I think that your sort of music, when I listen to yours and Wilson's as well to some extent, there's a lot of 80s pop coming through in there, like XTC, and I hear all sorts of, even Eurythmics, weirdly, all sorts of things in your influence.
And so I even, because they were all just top quality pop songs, weren't they? Which had depth to them. And I mean, Gavin's a massive Peter Gabriel fan. And I think he was doing a huge amount of session work in the 80s. 1142 and Paul Young and stuff, touring all over. So he brings that sensibility to the band as well. And in the new record, he's got this Nord drum, which is basically an electronic sort of drum pad thing.
Yeah.
proper 80s,
Oh,
stuff.
wonderful.
So when he starts hitting it, I'm like, "Whoa, Gav, what's that?" It says,
Boo,
"Yeah,"
boo,
but it's
boo.
actually it's brilliant because we're living in this sort of postmodern world where you can throw everything in the pot now. The
Yeah.
influences from everything is good.
Do you think that frees you as a musician, or it traps you a bit?
No, I think the fact that anything goes is really liberating. That's the thing. We don't. There's almost. I mean, the thing is that I kind of after 25 years, I've honed my skills as a rock sort of songwriter. So I'm
Mm.
not just going to turn up and say, "Yeah, I'm going to start writing R&B," because I wouldn't be able to do it.
No.
That I've spent 25 years just learning this craft, and that's. But at the same time, you don't want to do. Every artist will say they don't want to just churn out the same record, every couple of years. Which so it's that feeling of wanting to sort of keep, and that's what keeps the excitement and the lust for songwriting alive. The fact that you can just mix things up. And when we did this, we sat down to start the new record. We were like, let's think of and as soon as we found ourselves reverting back to type, which I could often do when songwriting, the rest of the guys would say, "No, we've done that. It sounds good, Bruce, but we've done it before. Put it in the bin." So it's that makes it quite nice.
Yeah, and that'd be difficult with 16 albums to remember you've done that before. I mean, there's a lot of music. There's a lot of minutes that you've recorded.
There is.
And then you go, "Oh God, that does sound like something off the first album."
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky that the keyboard player who's probably the first person I send my new ideas to. I've known him since 1996. He came and helped with my previous band to the Pineapple Thief, was this band called Vulgar Unicorn, proper prog band. Yeah, and that was in 1996. We had on the same record label, Cyclops. We put out these sort of real. So I've known him that's a long time.
Yeah.
And the bass player, I've known him since I met him in 1991. We had a sort of funk, sort of pop, like Chili Peppers sort of band. Yeah. We were jumping around in socks and shorts. He was slapping his bass. It was like, so I've known him ever since. And so it's a really good sort of band. There's a good relationship that we all have that help.
Yeah.
Keeping it fresh.
So on the new album, is there anything new directions? Speaking of that, is there anything new apart from the Nord drum? Is there anything like you're really proud of in a directional way? Or
I think what I realised is just this particular guitar that I used for most of the record is a 6-string baritone guitar.
Yeah.
So it goes down really low, and it just made me sing in a different way, but it also gave the album a really different kind of vibe, a lower, more sort of sinister sort of edge. And what I really like about it is that you get a lot of modern bands, especially progressive metal bands, who have got like 7-8 string going down to that register, but it's all really saturated metal.
Yeah.
And what I loved about this guitar was that it was like proper old school 70s, like a Black Sabbath sort of,
crunchy,
deep. Crunchy, crunchy, which is just as, if not more powerful, I think, than these big, super saturated modern progressive metal acts. And so it just gave the album this unique sort of vibe for me. So that was a big thing. Like, and so let's say Gavin's Nord drum, and we also got a live. The guitarist who plays live with us, a guy called Baron Matthews. He played a load of guitar on the record, and that gave it a new fresh. I just one thing I've got good at in my old age is being able to let go and open up and just let people come in and do their thing. Whereas in the early days, I've just been Mr. Control Freak.
Yeah,
but yeah, if you're surrounded by people you trust, and you got people like Gavin Harrison in the band. Yeah, I don't need to be telling him how to play the drums.
No,
so it's
no.
that's quite easy.
So, like, I just had a thought then. Like when you go on tour, being the band you are, with the history you have and the size of audience that you would bring along, and say when promoters are promoting you in say festivals, because you're a prog band, do they honestly think, oh, straight away you're up with the prog metal bands like Opeth, and do they bung you in there? Is that what
It's really
happens?
difficult. We are in this kind of no man's land zone because, like, we're not like we wouldn't do a kind of a mainstream sort of rock pop festival, although we could do. But then there's an awful lot of metal festivals. I mean, we've just been offered a place, a slot on in a big, quite a big festival. But Dream Theater, Opeth, Catatonia, and
Oh,
then us.
oh, well, there you
So
go.
yeah, that'd be quite, and quite. But we kind of think, well, maybe the audience would be ready for a bit more sort of traditional classic rock sounding
They
album,
might be after that amount. Yeah.
yeah, and a lot of modern Opeth. That's almost like Canterbury scene sounding anyway. So
Do you know what
it
it
might
is?
mix it
You're
up.
so right. Honestly, that is most of the best. That's the best I've heard someone say about the new Opeth. Yeah, it's very Canterbury sounding.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh dear, because here in Australia we have a lot of prog bands, but they're all prog metal bands most of the time,
a
right?
lot. I know.
A
Yeah,
lot of them, and I know quite a few of them. They're nice guys, but my God, it's all violins and extreme vocals, and you
yeah.
know, very extreme wacky times. As you said, like nine string. You're like watching, and you're like,
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, because I know the guys in Haken because they toured Australia quite a lot, and
yes,
similar kind of thing. They've got these massive, the curvy necked big
yes,
guitars, and it's amazing. Because I did their Atmos mix for the last record, and it is incredible to listen to, but very very different to what the Pineapple Thief is doing. That's for
yeah.
sure.
I think there's a weirdness about it because your prog is more less easy, not easy, that's the wrong word, that's offensive, but
No, I know what
more
you mean. I know what
easy
you mean. Yeah,
to absorb, right?
yeah,
When you've
and
got
connect with us. I
connect with,
think. Yeah,
thank you, yes. Very much like Wilson. I mean, Wilson, I love him, but he can be a bit down sometimes. But that's
yeah,
that's his lyric, right? That's
yeah,
what he's like. But that some of this modern metal stuff is just, I mean, I do love it, but my God, it's mind bending. And I
yes,
just be able to hear. I'd like to hear the lyric. Thank you. Could I just be able to hear
yeah.
the lyric?
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's what we get when we play live. You can see it's really interesting to see the demographic, the kind of people that come to our shows. I mean, in the early days, it was proper prog audience. A
Yeah.
bit like, have you been to a Marillion convention?
Yes, I have. Yes,
Yes. So
yes, I
we
have.
actually we played Marillion. I think it's 2005. They played a holiday camp in the UK, and
That's
we
right.
opened for them on
Butlins,
one of
where
the
it
nights.
was. Yeah,
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 Butlins. Yeah,
yeah.
Minehead. And you could see in those old days, there was a certain sort of prog fan that was kind of a music lover in the 70s. It was still loving music in the 90s. They were
Yes,
still there,
yeah,
and I love them, and we wouldn't be here without them. But when we tour now, and you see the new generation of people coming through, young couples that are hugging and singing along, then that's really special as well, because that's that your music that there's another generation of people
yes.
that
It's growing forward. Yeah,
yeah,
I went and saw Marillion. God, it would be before I came to Australia, so 1990, so Seasons End tour,
yeah,
and I'm at the side of Wembley Arena, right, with my then girlfriend, and I look over, like first there's a big sea of long-haired,
yeah,
middle-aged men, and I look over, and then there's this young kid. He would have been about 12, and I got such a buzz off that because I thought,
yeah,
you know what, good on you, man, because this is good
yeah,
music.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was
I
like
know, I can know that
heartwarming.
feeling.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
like heartwarming.
Mm.
So you're obviously you've played Australia, haven't you? As a
No,
band, you've never played
no,
here.
never made it. No, it's we've tried. We were almost going to come, and I think the pandemic
Oh, typical.
put paid to that.
Yeah.
It's just difficult. It's especially difficult for us because of the drums situation. So Gavin has to have that. He can't just turn up and play any old kit. He's got to have
Yes.
his drum kit,
Yeah.
and they just such a pain in the ass to move and to ship.
Yeah.
And because Australia's quite a big place, and it's not like in England where you can just 2 hours on the
No.
road and we're in the
No.
next venue.
Exactly. It's like 6 hours to the
Yeah,
next venue. That's
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but no, never say never. I mean, we can. It's definitely doable. We can get the drum kits. If we can get the drum kit, then we've been talking about doing the Australia, maybe tacking Japan on, and
Oh
to
yeah.
make it, yeah,
Yeah. They'd love you in Japan, man. I reckon they'd love you
yeah.
there.
I'd love to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So have you got a tour coming planned for this album?
So yeah, we're just about to head off for a European tour.
All right.
which when we haven't played for such a long time, you don't take it for granted that people still going to come out and watch you. And plus, post-pandemic, it's very busy. There's lots and lots of bands touring.
Oh God, it's
But
crazy.
luckily, yeah, it's lots. But yeah, luckily it's ticket sales are already more than the last European tour, and we haven't left yet. So it's like, thank God for that, because it's the band that would lose money. It's a big risk when you put a tour together for a band.
I mean, of course it is. There's dollars, pounds, and cents and everything behind it, isn't it? It's a lot of money, man.
Yeah. And tour bus, you don't want to know how much it costs to run a tour bus every day.
I'd hate to think.
Yeah. So, but we're lucky. So we're lucky it's worked. So now we realise that people they're still out there. They still want to see us. So we're doing this sort of 4.5-week tour of Europe, and then hopefully go back to North America at the end of the year, and then beginning of next year we're going to look at Europe again, where we haven't gone to. And like saying, you never know. Australia. Every time a new album comes out, the number of people will say, "Oh, come to Australia, come to Australia."
Yeah. You've got a big fan base here.
Yeah, we'd love to do it. Yeah.
So, when I think of Europe and prog bands, right? Like Fish particularly is really big in Poland and Germany. Do you have like a heartland where the countries that you're more popular in?
Yeah, it's weird, and it's something that we sort of built on. For instance, Paris is really, really good for us, and Paris is notorious. France and Paris is notorious for English bands to sort of break, and so somehow we've done well there. Amsterdam, biggest seller of the lot. Germany is really good, but Cologne is by far the best.
Yeah,
strange things. Just look at but Poland is just coming right up. We played Italy for the first time in 2018, and we thought, oh my goodness, is anyone going to come? And they sold out, and so that now has just become in fact, and Spain as well. We went to Spain for the first time, and that was just, the Spanish audience is like a football match. It's such a crazy atmosphere. They're chanting, singing, and those brilliant. So it kind of realized that we can go almost anywhere. It's really lucky. I think that's the big thing about being a progressive rock act, is that it's global. You can go anywhere. You go, and Chile, Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, all of North America, you name it. It's just everywhere. Whereas when I was growing up and you looked at like these big Britpop bands, for example, it's huge in England, would do nothing in the USA, struggle in Europe and everything. So yeah, even though I can walk down the street in my hometown without being mobbed, I think it's the fact that we can get an audience in any town just makes it really, really vital. That's how we become sort of full-time musicians.
Yeah, I think that's because quality music, and I mean this because I'm a big prog fan and I love your work, and so this sort of music is in my soul. But music that's not just, don't get me wrong, I like punk, I like heavy metal, I like all music. I listen to everything, right?
Yeah.
But there's something very fulfilling about your kind of music. You put on your album on the way to work on the bus, as I did this morning, your first album, and you get taken away. Suddenly I've got to get off the bus. I'm not just going, I've got to kill time here. This is like, I've got to get up. Shit. You just get taken away, whether it's lyrically or musically. And I think that's why it's universal prog, because it's not.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you can't understand what they're saying. Because like the Italians have a huge prog audience. I found out only recently. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great place to go for us.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I really hope the new album does well. I hope
Thank you very much.
Blows everything out of the water, as like everything always does with you guys. It's always going to be an interesting journey.
Thanks.
Going through your work, and I do hope you get to come to this very hot and sticky part of the world, because it is hot.
Yeah, so do I. So do I. Get away from this grey, dull.
I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah,
I went back to visit my dad last year, and I was like, now I'm going back.
Yeah.
I need the sun.
Yeah.
Recharges the batteries. Although saying that, I think, sorry, before you go, I think the British Isles are really good for that in a musical way, because it is such a, if you know that classic song, about 4 seasons in one day, right? You do, you do get that. over there.
You do, yeah. You do get the extremes, yeah. Yeah.
And I think that
yeah,
I think makes your sort of music a little bit more interesting than just be sunshine and cars on the beach. You know what I mean?
true. Yes, yeah. You're right. Yeah. Then I might run out of inspiration.
Yeah. Oh, I can't record. I'm not miserable. I'm only joking.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but yeah, thanks for chatting, my friend. I hope you've got
That's
a
right.
busy
No,
day ahead of you.
enjoyed it. Thanks for having
And
me.
I loved it. And I love your work, and I really look forward to hearing the album. Was it on the when's it out again?
9th of Feb.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And also, you said the new single drops very soon?
Thursday, 1st of Feb. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, well, I'll be on to that one. Over here, probably
Right,
like
brilliant.
2 a.m. or something.
Yeah.
All right, my friend. Safe travels.
All right. Yeah, and
Thanks
you.
for coming.
Cheers.
Bye, mate.
Yeah. No worries. Cheers. Bye.
Bye. Cheers, man.